Welcome back. We're going to now have a presentation and conversation with Ruangrupa. This is Ade. Hello, Ade. We're missing you here. Ruangrupa was established in 2000 and is a Jakarta-based artist collective. Members of Ruangrupa are now in different parts of the world, including in Kassel, working with other disciplines such as the social sciences, politics, technology, education models, and media. Ruangrupa seeks to share critical observations and views on contemporary issues. In 2018, they co-initiated Good School, which is a prolific model of a collective of collectives, really, in an ecosystem of study with Siram and Grafis Huruhara. The space for public learning was established to practice expanded understandings of collective practice and value. Ruangrupa also produces collaborative works in the form of artistic projects, such as exhibitions, festivals, art labs, books, magazines, and an online journal. They have been involved in platforms ranging from Guangzhou Biennale to the Asia Pacific Triennale of Contemporary Art, the Singapore Biennale, Aichi Triennale, and various other forums. Most recently, they are the artistic directors of Documenta 15. Prior to this, they also directed Soundspec, which is a platform in the Netherlands. Welcome, and we really look forward to spending this time with you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, it's very strange. I have to watch myself. Is there any other way? This is very strange. Yeah. Please. Okay, that's better. That's better. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is very strange with Zoom, no? Like you talk to yourself. Thank you, Natasha, for introduction, and everyone, Pratik. I'm sorry I cannot be there with you today. I wish next time we'll go there for sure. I suppose I accompanied by one other friend, Iswanto and Reza, but Reza cannot join because of other stuff. Iswanto, I think he missed the time. We'll see. I hope with the time difference with Kassel, with Germany, because I think last few days they changed the time from 1 hour. So yeah, thank you. How long? Like how many hours we have? Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll try to be quick then. Can I share my screen? I will go back to the old time of Ruangrupa. This is I'm going to tell stories, just share my stories actually on how it's evolved throughout the years. Sorry, is it okay? Can you see the image? No, I cannot. No, I cannot. No, because you don't know my laptop. My laptop will do strange things when I do that. It's it's an old one, so I don't know what happened. It's already a few years. So yeah, I hope it's okay. It's okay. Okay. Yeah. So this is our old first one actually. I mean, like we Ruangrupa, Ruang it's space and Rupa it's visual. I don't know. Maybe it's I think it's coming from Sanskrit as well. But we started without space in 2000. We started. I mean, like me and some other friends who started actually. We met each other in mid 90s, like 94, 95, when we were students. I don't have. No, I'm just too shy to show you our art school photos. But we met during that time, and then we started to do a lot of stuff in the city with many sporadic things in two cities in Jogja, because I was studying in Jogja in Indonesian Art Institute from 92 and 90s 98 I went to Rijks Academy, and then we still keep on uh, discussing the ideas and so on. So when I come back in 2000 and we start and we think that okay, let's start it, because we think that we need a space. We need a space. So it's really coming from the necessity for space to meet together and also to live actually, because this is our house. We put our money together and then we rent a house after a year without space. uh, uh, I don't have better picture. Like the one, if you go see through, like that one is actually living room. Then we change it into a space for showing, meeting, and so on. And then this is the second one. So again, from house to house, and we changed the function of the house from living room to for a meeting place, for exhibition. At least we call it exhibition. It's just like very simple exhibition space, and so this, for example, so we changed the house. A bedroom become sort of like office or archive or job space or library and so on. So it's really from this house. It's really different than of course. I mean, like so-called alternative space in Europe, for example, which is post-industrial. So it's always being like we use like warehouse or like factories or that kind of stuff. For us, it's like it's a post. I don't know, post domestic. uh, uh, Talking about that as well, it's really blurred the border of private and public as well, because when you close the gate and it's become our private space that we live there and so on. We share space, and then when we do something more public, and then we open, and then it's become public. So it's like the same space, but in. I start with this because this also show how we sort of like seeing which more or less collide in or like blurred in the same time. So like, or even tense actually. And I was in 2009 or 10. I forgot. I did a show on artist initiative or artist run space in Indonesia. So we invite like around 26, I think, initiative from different islands, from Sumatra, Java, and so on, and also to the east to Sulawesi and so on. So we asked them to send us any photos that can represent their practice, and most of them actually send this kind of photos. They use house, they sit on the ground, like some of you also there, and always like in a circle. Uh, and it's always like coming from the house, and also like this is also very interesting how art institution or art space that is actually imagined, that art institution or art organization, it's actually living or live among the neighborhood. Talking about this is because there is a disconnection as well. There is attempt to disconnect uh, or to alienate the art practice, or like even for example from 70s, even because we have a long tradition of a collective or like self-organized or common communality and so on. So there's always a state or like power always see that as something that it's very threatening for the power. So there's always attempt on discouraging or like alienate this attempt to organize ourselves. Like in 70s, for example, there's systematic uh, from the government to push out or like to disconnect campus from surroundings, for example, because campus is always being a place where the very critical and like all like demonstration activism is really coming from the campus. So they try to neutralize that. And also like my campus, for example, in late 90s was pushed away from the city to like almost nowhere, in the middle of nowhere, in the south of Georgia. So there is a systematic, but again, like the idea of of being part of the people, or like art and also self-organized entity is it's still live and growing, and you can see how it's actually uh, uh, represented in, in, in this uh, uh, arts, like small art space, that emerge after end of 90s, after 98 especially, after Reformation. So this is a lumbung is basically a rice barn. Hello? Oh, like here? Okay. Wow, sorry. Now I forgot what. Yeah, yeah. This is a space in our space that is actually a living room. If you see, I will move on with more slides that's actually showing what happened in the same space, in this space. It's like exhibition. We put some lights. We paint the wall white, and then it's become exhibition space. People can have presentation, talks, and so on, and also being occupied by people in the surrounding. Uh, is when we get the meeting happenings always being in sort of like an assembly kind of in a rotation or in the circular in a circle. And of course, music. It's a very a strong connection, music and arts in our scene. Hello, Mas Bro. There's Iswanto.
Hello. Sorry. Yes. Can you hear me better? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mas Bro, I'm just explaining about like starting with the house and so on, our house and how it's functioning. Yeah. So if you have something, just jump in.
Okay.
And we use also for class discussion and so on. So it's like something that like we really loud, or can be also become like very reflective and calm, like education and so on. So it's like really this one space become kind of like a space for almost many things. This is where, of course, this is where always after we had a meeting aftermath, and so Lumbung itself, something that it's naturally there since we set ourselves in the house, gathering in the house and so on. Lumbung itself is a rice barn. It's agraric tradition in Indonesia. I think this resonates with many other cultures as well, with storing not only rice but also seeds, some surplus, so they can use it also in the future for sustainability, and also celebrated by a lot of rituals and so a lot of performance, really performative and also very sonic in the same time. So for us, Lumbung itself, I mean, like we live in Jakarta. It's an urban environment, but Lumbung itself, it lives as a concept in our head. And many times we use that as a model of sharing resources. There is a very good long essay actually by Melanie Budianta. She did research on Lumbung that still live in Jakarta, in small alley in Jakarta, because in Indonesia, urban and rural, it's actually always exchanging imagination. You know, like our urban is really built by a rural imagination, and also vice versa. So it's been always in conversation. So this is Iswanto's drawing on Lumbung and Sasak tribes, and this is also like a practice that we have to challenge ourselves as well. You know, to setting up a limit, like self limit, because like for example, how we define surplus, how we define sufficiency, and so on. So it's really something that we exercise all the time. And towards the documenta, and also towards some years, we sort of like evolve this practice more structured, more mechanical, I might say, as a model. So we're setting up. We found at least several values that evolve in the Lumbung practice. You know, like there is a generosity, there is locally anchored, endurance, regeneration, sufficiency, ethics, transparency, course, humor also and independence. So these things sort of like we try to set this as something that we found. It might change, it might edit it also by other people and so on. But so far, when we sort of like when we do it like for throughout decades, this is at least several values that sort of like emerge and can be as enabling the lumbung itself. So since 2013, actually, since 2013, we setting up a collective with other groups in Jakarta, like two other groups, Grafis Huruhara and Serum. They are from pedagogic art pedagogic background. So it's really something that really totally foreign, but also not something that we know much about as well. So it's like it's really great collaboration with them to setting up lumbung with them together. And we started like a first couple of years. Started with sharing just like ideas, facilities, spaces, intangible and tangible resources as well. Money is actually the last one. Even we work already for many years, but we shared our money. I think in the last 3-4 years. So everyone is actually can use everyone's money. So lumbung as in not as centralistic, not as a central pot that money is actually stored, but like everyone have their own pot or bank account, but everyone is actually can see by transparency can see each other's resources. So through Majelis, through assembly, we discuss and then we solve others' needs and also surpluses. So everyone is actually can see each other's resources and can propose to each other that they can use or they can shift and so on. So this is our compound since 2018 in the south of Jakarta that we develop. It's around 700 square meters for spaces and classes, and then we're setting up also collective studies. It's 1-year program for people who would like to study or learn together with us about collective practice in many ways, including also developing like alternative economic model and sustainability and so on. It's been really great that slowly also become international or regional. Last 2 years, we also work together, or we share some knowledge with others in the region. So this is sort of like a simple scheme of the lumbung that we have in the good school. So there's a self-sustainability group of people that work on how we should generate income and other resources. And in the right bottom is actually a list of initiatives and collectives that are here around, and the people is actually also overlapping and so on. So we have like more or less like 50 people that work almost every day here, and the knowledge sources which is coming from good school itself as a research, as a educational platform for collective practice. So and then like these three things are together and connected, and in the middle is actually the Majelis, the assembly that we have more or less every month, that of course, during COVID, we just do it online, but it's always being sort of like assembly place for everyone to share their experience, ideas, or hangouts, and just like timeless conversation. Not necessarily solve the problem, but just like sharing all the things that we experience. So this is the place actually. And the next to it, there is like 22 studios. We separate them to many other artists, designers, architects, like small publishers as well, and so on. This is just like the upstairs of the places actually. Mas Bro, you want to add?
Yeah, just shortly maybe about this. I think we take all of this. It's all the materials that we built. Also, we try to be as sustainable as possible. So we use the names from the Jakarta Biennale at the time now, bro. Maybe I think I remember 60% or 70%.
Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone.
Actually, the rest is renovation. So the main building where it's futsal stadium before, it's small. So
if you see the pillars is coming from a drum. The pillars is coming from the, how you call it?
Oil drum.
Yeah, metal drum. Yeah. And this is from containers, yeah, and then with it's used pallet.
Yeah, maybe I think that's, we can add it when discussion.
Yeah. Of course, karaoke. So it's this is like one of the assembly. And this is 2016, a little bit back on how we actually apply again, because our practices really emerge from the space itself. So when they appoint us as curator in Sonsbeek in 2016, this is what we do. I mean, like Ruru House itself as a space, we try already several times before as artist or as curator as well. Like really like space making, or or like even like small organization making in a certain local is as a base, as a root for our artistic or curatorial practice, and then we grow from there. And this is what we did in Sonsbeek. We opened this Ruru House like 1 year before the exhibition itself, and then from there, from like organizing the space, we connect, we work together with artists, and so on. Even we invite artists that involved in the project. We'll use that space as sort of like a place to like a pot of stories and experience as well. So this is just like many activities that we have in Ruru House. So it's really, and then coming from there, and then we can, it's like our sensoric tools, or that we use when we are working in one particular context. That it's from there, and then grow into either collaboration or many other practices that people might, I mean, like the audience will experience it as an artwork, for example, or as an engagement and so on. But for us, it's something also important that just us being there, and then as a person, as a human as well, with the space, breathing and together with everything and everyone in that space in the city, and then slowly grow into something, another relation. Do we have still time? No? 5 minutes. Okay. This is Documenta 15. So, so again, so we apply again the Ruru House. Iswanto and Reza moved to Castle for 2 years before the exhibition itself.
2020, yeah.
2020, and then it's become sort of something that makes us rooted there, and also make Castle as a local, because and then only by doing that, the interlocal conversation can be happen with others in other parts of the world, because that's the idea, like not only seeing Castle as a center, but also thinking how it's actually the practice, the artistic, the aesthetics, and also the knowledge can cycle back to where it's belong, or where the first ecosystem is actually coming from, because this is also our model, trying to not to see or not to practicing the extractive act or mode that like a big event or like a big exhibition is actually always doing, like sucking or like absorbing, extracting everything to one space and time, and calling it exhibition, which that's what happened in Documenta, of course. Like even they call it Museum of 100 Days. Like it's a very divine. 100 days. Like not before, not more. So it's like really divine. That's to do that. We try to see the time as a journey. Like Lumbung is actually longer than Documenta, and then we see Documenta as one of the step, or like one of the phase of the longer Lumbung journey. I think only by that we sort of trying to see the or to challenge the representational way of exhibition making. So so we deal with space with Ruru House, and time with putting Documenta itself as part of our longer journey. Of course, we deal with a lot of structural issue, because it shows also that how we work is also really production based, and also really I call it like a very set of time, kind of like a durational divine time concept, while we try to sort of like stretch that. And in terms of resources, so it's a long process with by implement this Lumbung not as a theme, because theme is rather in the center always, and then art and artwork sort of like trying to react to that theme in the middle. So what we did first time is actually take out, to delete to delete the theme, So lumbung we apply as more like as a concept, as method, like even protocols. We wrote a lot of mechanism actually during the process. So it's become like holistic, kind of like operating system. So what audience might see even is actually the class of the operating system that we install, that we apply in documenta, and naturally naturally also it influence or change actually how we research, or how in our conversation with the artists during the preparation, yeah? because and then we're not really searching for artworks. We are searching for people with those values in their practice. Are they working really with the ecosystem, for example, and so on, and also what kind of model that they have, what kind of practice that they have, what kind of collective values that they have. So really interested in who that in the long run that we would like to work with and to learn from as well, rather than to make exhibition. Actually, I think exhibition is actually like really coming in the end. I was actually personally quite surprised that it's end up in exhibition. So so this is one of the process, it's we setting up several networks, or like a lumbung artists, lumbung interlocal, and lumbung also in Kassel, and lumbung Indonesia as well. And then we involve many artists that grouped in a certain way that they can share their resources. They can share also artistic practices, and also possible collaboration. And they can also involve their own ecosystem. That's why if you read maybe about the documenta, I don't know really exactly what number actually that involves, but it's like many. but what we involve officially is actually sort of like around 60 collective and artists. But then
74.
74, yeah, Mas Bro. Thank you. And then it sort of like ripple or like spiral out the involvement into thousands of involvement, because that's the idea as well, like sharing the invitation to others. Yeah, this is the translation that it's always sort of like it's not only like one way, it's always sort of like a conversation amongst, or like between like the local ecosystem and also Kassel, so it can like a cycle back, or sort of like a constant conversation. I think I'm going to stop there. Otherwise, we don't have time to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think the questions are really also going to be a way to continue from where you left off. So to start with, I actually just wanted to go to a quote from an interview that I found that was quite an interesting provocation. I'm just going to read it. Horizontality is not a value in itself. Sometimes it's actually not a smart move to be horizontal, but it becomes useful in order to show that there is a plethora of ways to imagine and practice things differently than the destructive methods the mainstream is using right now. Furthermore, working horizontally also means that you have to decentralize yourself again and again. I found this really useful, actually, because it kind of made me reflect that we use certain terminologies like horizontality without thinking about them in an analytical way without sort of thinking about the inscribed unevenness, also depending on the different ecologies within which we emerge. So I'd love to just, leave, if you could sort of reflect back to us on that. And how it worked like that also in Documenta, where of course it was very open format, but then at the same time, the values, the Lumbung values, also enabled a constant, this sort of decentralizing oneself again and again.
Yeah, I think like many times it's because it's really based. I think it should be based on practice because I don't think it will work in thematical way because again, like conceptually, theme as well. It's always in the center. So it is already there is a power relation there. So and we have to challenge all the time, and there is no somehow like there is no other way, sort of like to break like one by one, and of course some like or many things it's actually doesn't work because it's just like traditionally it's sort of like being structured as in vertical a structure. That's why the first one that we try to break is actually our position. Of course, it's not easy at all because like it also shows how art works is actually very centralistic and very very vertical. Let's say like the term or like our position as artistic director, like that's like the first thing that we sort of like creates or like did trying to destruct by share our power into artistic team and also into the Lumbung interlocal that we involve, and then slowly all the decision making, it's sort of like shared and rolled in a certain way that it can be more transparent and then can be more challenged from many different angle, and also to rotate as well, like to rotate the role and so on, because that's actually something that we learned as well, how to do that in the it's not like power is not accumulated in one position, but that if we cannot avoid that, maybe like to rotate the relation is actually also something can be strategized. But yeah, it's many stories, of course, that we have to deal with. I mean, exhibition itself, it's not horizontal. Exhibition inherently, it's not horizontal. Like plays, for example, a place of like how people see in Kassel, for example. But so we challenge all the time, like what does that mean to be in Kassel? But what does that mean also for people in Jatiwangi, for example, being in Documenta, and so on. So like those cycle mode of question is not easy to apply, but we keep on address that in our approach. Yeah, Paspro, you want to add? I hope I answer your question or comment.
And maybe the next one, this one too. You
I
want
would
to
say as well.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
No, I just want to add a little bit. I think that it's as well, I would say it's decentralized. Maybe it's, as Ade says, power really, I think since beginning, but looking back as well as in the first slide where Ruangrupa was started in the house, I think that's as well, because in those era we are living in a very centralized government regime. during the Suharto. Everything was centralized in Jakarta, in Java. But I think the ideas to build these small cultural spaces, where Ruangrupa is one of it, is to decentralize. I think to be in paradox with those power relation those time, and I think that's influenced a lot of the way we work, and as well in Kassel. I mean, not as well when we started to choose the place, the space, you know, the venues and so on. We already start consciously thinking how to decentralize the, you know, because we learn from Documenta first till 14 that everything is centralized in the center, especially with culminated in the Friedrichianum, Museum Friedrichianum, and then with surrounding. But yeah, then we start decentralize those spaces, but as well as I did say with power relation of as well decision making, and it's also appear consciously where in Ruangrupa, in Food School, in Jakarta, even before Food School, how we work is on those ideas of, you know, this, and it's came in every project that we have as well, in institution, in the biennales and so on, where we invited as an artist. I think that's why the approach is always attached to our ideas as well.
And maybe just continuing on that thread, as you already mentioned that it wasn't, for you, it wasn't sort of necessary that Documenta 15 would sort of end up in an exhibition or an exhibition of exhibitions, or, you know, sort of obviously you're already stretching that concept in incredibly generous and dramatic ways. But we did speak briefly, Ade, in Kassel as well about just how, given the kind of venues that were selected, this immense range of venues, you're also using the city in very different ways. You're using neighborhoods that have not been used to the extent that they have in this edition. And so clearly there was a lot of dialogue involved in the ways that artists wanted to use those spaces. And it would be great to kind of just have a little bit of an understanding of, you know, that sort of behind the scenes in a sense, because I understand that it wasn't you all kind of making those decisions on behalf of the Lumbung members, but yeah, could you kind of guide us through some of that process a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, just share a bit on how we, I mean, like we many first, like many of organizations or collectives that we involve also have their own way to deal with the space and also in their own practice. So like the question again, like what's actually the benefit of being in Documenta, like showing in 100 days, or like making activities and so on, can be sort of like being cycled back to or benefiting their practice back home. So this is one thing that artistically as well actually influence how it should be presented in Kassel. So that's why also, you know, like many venues become unvenues. It's not like venues. It's like a living space as well. Like it's like organism. It's actually naturally coming from many practices as well. That's why actually I started with how we live and work in the house. So like artistic and domestic, it's actually kind of like together, you know, like, so like music, kitchen, living space. There is we changed Fridericiano maybe for the first time in the history of documentaries, become also a dorm. So like people living there for 100 days, even more, and many venues as well become their living space. So and then we batch them, or like we organize sort of like so the artist can activate the space, or like being there in the space as a host for 100 days. This is really a big management work, but seeing that as an aesthetics, as a even as a politics as well of the space. And we don't really design so much actually as in, I mean, like we as in exhibition curator. So what we did is actually I think there's one time that we can fly many artists to come to Kassel, and then we just like walk with them together, and then seeing the space that we have, like Ruru House, for example, and other space. Some is actually traditionally always being used for documenta, but also many are not. It's actually coming from the finding of us, and together with the artists, like experiencing the city. So we don't really choose the space and then sort of like locate artists where, who, and where, you know. So it's like really it's a collective decision, and even like some venues that being chosen by several artists, and then we apply majlis, we apply assembly. So like we, in conversation with all the artists, and then also our production team and so on, sit together and then decide together who should go where, and then how to design. So it's really, and some venues is actually in decision like half a year. You know, like this process is like taking so much time. Maybe Iswanto can speak more about that with the venues. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's completely right. I think as mentioned, we are not cutting the cake into pieces and then distribute it for the artists, but we rather take approach that the artists, because locally anchored and working with communities is one of the main, mostly for all the artists. So being secure and comfortable with the surroundings, I think that's the important thing. So we give it open decision for the artist to choose where they want to be. And yeah, this process, as Ade said, this takes lots of ways, takes a longer time, especially lots of conflict as well between the artists. And, but that's the most interesting part, because at the end, actually, through the majlis, as Ade said, they manage the space together to distribute the programs, and also to solve many problems with sound, with the light, and so on. So how the venue works, actually, let's say in one space, one venue, one buildings, there are 4, 5, 6 artists live together, and some of them are really live there every day. So they manage together collectively the space, which is very much interesting that is happening during the process, actually. And yeah, so there are so many collective process which came out through the process itself, actually. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I had the privilege to be at Documenta twice. Once at the very beginning and once at the end, and one could really see in action this sort of these principles. And in terms of, you know, curators often, or let's say curators in this kind of with their professional hats of being curators end up often saying that their exhibition will look different in the beginning, and then it'll transform, and they kind of use all of these terminologies, and often that's simply not the case. It's often like an artificial sort of way of saying, it often a way of sort of maybe even pressurizing a certain mode of process-led work, rather than actually thinking the way that y'all have from the very beginning and from so many years of practice. I think that's what came across so strongly in the way that you presented today, that this is not something that is just generated when the invitation comes, but it's something that is just inherent in building vocabularies together. I was also really thinking, perhaps with the audience here who may not have had the chance to visit, if you could maybe give some examples in terms of, what happened in the Friedrichianum, let's say, when different kinds of educational or pedagogic structures and entities came together, where different kinds of archives came beside each other from very different parts of the world, whether that's sort of Keleketla library or the Black Archives, or sort of these very, very precious infrastructures that have been sustained really against the odds, against very severe political realities, finally having the chance to share space in that one building. Maybe if you could, maybe share with us some anecdotes from what really happened there when they could be present in this way over so many months.
Yeah, Friedrichianum it's a good example to actually to sort of like to show also the whole. So one of the things that we change, I mean, like many things happen, or like many things that we have now in exhibition making, is actually also something to do with the economy behind it, no? So in order to to change that, we have to change the economy of documenta as well. I try to be fast on this, but there's so many things actually. But just like one example, for example, we don't use because it's not a theme, so it's not. So we change the logic of I call it commission, for example, because commission is imagining bilateral trading mechanism or like model, like organizers as producers or client, and artists as artistic service provider. And that's what is exactly happened. So we don't use that idea. So we change it into, even in the contract, is actually just like one simple contract that several parties agree on a certain values, rather than I commit or like artists commit to one, and then we have another contract for like more detailed one. So we changed that, and then we changed the fee into seed money, because as respect to what they've been doing before, now, and also after. So it's sort of like unconditional resources that being given to the artists as in respect to their practice, and also the production costs. We equalize the production costs, so it's actually all the same. Not all the same. That's just like collective and individual. It's different, but like all the collective the same, and all the artists are the same. And then we group into the mini majlis, which so they can share their knowledge, experience, artistic practice, open for collaboration, and also they can share what we call collective thought for each mini majlis. So there's a amount of money, like a lumbung pot money, that they can use collectively, and then they have to decide also collectively, and it's self-organized. Each mini majlis is usually consists of like 5 until 7 artists, and then we divide it just because it's we communicate by Zoom, so we divide it by time zone, so they can self-organize themselves, and then they can collectively decide what to do with the collective pot. Some will propose for their own individual project, for example, but if everyone agree, and then it is fine. Some can be for collaboration, some for even for their own ecosystem. They want to invite more artists, for example, from the ecosystem. That's why it's rippling out. And then even there's artists that say that like, this is too much, I will give my pot money into others. So it's really really this lumbung practice, sort of like exercise or challenge in each mini majlis. While the Friedrichianum is actually has its own majlis with like so many members. We envision like to change the Friedrichianum that traditionally is always a center, like people is always going there for the first time. So we changed it into more intangible approach as its knowledge. So it's actually like a bucket or like a big pot of knowledge, and then we call it the Fried School, like Friedrichianum as a school. So we involve like many artists or collectives that addressing or like speculating different kind of knowledge production and also educational model. So that's what happened, and then they actually Iswanto will know much better. I didn't involve in the Majelis Friedrichianum so much, but it's like really like even the layout and everything is actually we work together with them to sort of like designing the layout and so on, how to evolve. You know, like there's a common library, there is a common space for daycare for babies and kids and parents, and then also for classes and dorm and so on, kitchen as well. Yeah, so it's really something that really demanding time and energy as well. Collective practice. I think we experienced this for many years, of course, but it's really efficiency. It's not the word. You know, it's like collective practice. It's totally inefficient, but it's
Slow.
it's very slow, effective, better, maybe not efficient, but it's more effective. It can be faster, but certainly more beautiful. Maybe Swanta can add more.
Yeah, I think the very much interesting case of Friedrichianum as well is the unpredictable event that happened there. With, let's say, in Good Kitchen behind the Friedrichianum, maybe have you experienced that because every night there are so many unplanned events that happening there. So it's suddenly everybody come and decide together what to do, and then they decide to do party, to do cooking, to do karaoke, whatever. So it's like just flowing during the 100 days, like, you know, continuously without like you have proper plan that this has scheduled and so on, and they decided all together with not only just from the Majelis of the Friedrichianum part, but it's extended with multi layers, not only other participants, but even with the guests who come and join the event. And it's important to add as well, I think the process of Friedrichianum is very interesting case as well, because it's quite a long discussion from the Majlis since maybe about a year before the opening. I think how they decided to run it together and continuously work together of how to program, how to, as Ade mentioned about how to exchange with the ideas of education, knowledge production, and but as well in designing process. And for example, this one, the common library on the and the rubrics was a project collaboration by Saurabh Patke from India and Elwasa from Tunisia, and with us to help to support the production and so on. So with our production team together. So I think this is really circular design process, and also in collaboration and work together with cycling material networks from Kassel mostly, but as well from other part of Germany to support for the materials and to be used by artists and so on. And yeah, this is one of the most important part as well that Ade mentioned since beginning. Why Ruangrupa is here as well is to rethink how the exhibition making. I mean, challenge what the documenta has been before, but now, yeah, this is kind of the common library that in the future.
Yeah, this is the common library and like meeting space, like all the artists can organize their discussion here, not only from Fridericianum but also for others, and also we have as well. What is it? Like this one is actually a Lumbung Press. This is a mural of Brito from Bangladesh, and this is a work from Banor from Thailand. And we have a common Lumbung Press, we call it. So any artist during 100 days can print any printing material that they want, flyers, small booklets, brochures, and so on. And this is, so like this common facility is really coming from the a big majlis, because we have mini majlis, and then we have we call it Majlis Akbar, like a great assembly. That's like 100, like 200 people can come join together. And we did it like several times during the process, and then we decide like all the money that can be from the pot, or like even from production budget, to shift into a common needs, you know, like press, for example, and then also this one, like the library, for example, and so on.
Sorry, we're somewhat running out of time. Would it be all right if we just take maybe one or two questions, and we also have chance for further discussion after our participants from the 2 days will be actually gathering tomorrow. So hopefully you will also return, and we can kind of engage in further reflection together. But for now, I'd love to see if there's someone in the room who wants to ask something or. I'm just gonna wait for a minute.
I wanted to ask, in your years of documentation, does the process eventually gets codified? Like you are doing it for quite a long year. So you said a lot of things stay free, but among the participant, does things get codified, like things working in a certain way, and does it? Yes, does it get structural, more structural, or it just stays something very, yeah, I was not looking for free, but more scattered kind of thing. Yeah, amorphous is a better word, I think.
Uh,
Can you
I don't
repeat
get.
the
Yeah, I don't
question?
get the first half actually. Sorry.
So I'm just going to try to paraphrase, but please correct me if I don't get it right. Basically, just since you have been working for a long time together, and certain part of the approach is a recurring one. There are certain principles that are recurring. Do you feel that you're able to actually maintain the fluidity, the amorphousness of it, the scattered nature of the work, or do you feel like that itself, having worked together for so long in a certain way, also makes the practice structured? And there's a certain, yeah, then it becomes a kind of a model in itself that arrives. That's I think the question.
Okay, I try. I hope. Yeah. Yeah. We kind of like always back and forth, like sort of like into like a step into two sides, like formal informality and structure and more organic and so on, and we always do that all the time. And I think I mentioned before about rotating as well. Like for many years, uh, we it's almost instinctive, this amongst us, like among ourselves, like this rotation of roles and and position, like who's listening, who's talking, and so on. Silence or loud, like those things. And it can be structured. It can, or sometimes it needs structure. Like Lumbung itself somehow kind of like structure that that actually can hold this. I mean. Lumbung itself is not only concept. I mean, like in it is exists as architectural function. So it has a physical function or existence, but also in a concept. So that's why it's a very interesting model that somehow we inherently or naturally have it in our mind, but also it's really inspiring as well, architecturally or like physically. If I may go back to my slides, I don't know if I can, but this is also we just very quick. So this is actually like a physical structure of a complete lumbung, actually, traditionally. There's a storage when we store the rice, and then there's a domestic function also, and then also social as as in the bottom. So and then this is really also inspired us, sort of like, or like even can represent what we are doing actually. I mean, like we can speculate. Maybe this is how we actually define our art and life. Which is actually coming together. Like knowledge, private, social. So, and while in practice, we when it's getting too structured, and then I think humor should kick in to sort of like deconstruct that, and we have that sort of in more like a sensible and instinctive way as well. I mean, like we worked together for many years. And while we work together with Lumbung artists, like for the last 2 or 3 years, like many of them, of course, we know each other for a long time as well. But like I think time is a very crucial element also in the Lumbung model.
Thank
Hope I
you.
answered
Yeah,
it.
yeah. No, thanks so much. That's great. And it was great to see as well that model once again, really on screen. I think that made a big difference. Sort of think about also architecturally, infrastructurally, how the thinking has taken shape. I have so many more questions for you. Hopefully, you know, if you can return, if you return tomorrow, it'd be great to kind of continue. Also, given the sort of the challenges really that have taken place, the kind of growing hostility that there has been around this generous effort and growing exercise with so many members. That itself is, at least in this part of the world, I think for us important to critically reflect on where that hostility comes from, what it actually is dampening and censoring, which is actually very innate in our political systems of strife. So I think that's something that we can also jointly think about together, as well as the forms of continuum, because this call of Lumbung acting and being also elsewhere and everywhere, I think is something that is a joyous and brave response that we all kind of feel very connected to. So hopefully, you know, we can also come to some of those aspects tomorrow in conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.